On today's Minute of the Ape, it's been a hot minute since we've all sat down together at a table, so it's good to see you guys again.
Yes.
Hey.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape! Exercise would an ape make a human doll? It talks. We are the keepers of the divine balance. It is our only reason for survival. We are determined to know what the apes want, war or peace. The only good human is a dead human!
Welcome to Minute of the Apes, the daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, and I try to talk over planes that are flying overhead.
Yeah.
Sean lives close to downtown Dallas, or in downtown Dallas.
I live in the flight path of Love Field, yes.
And so the big booming planes come overhead and sound scary, but they're really not.
No.
Happy Monday. How are you boys?
I'm doing good.
Doing very well.
And if you didn't guess, that's Richard and Sean I'm talking
Hey.
to. So it is Monday.
We're close. We're getting... Oh, no, I guess we've got a week or two till we're about halfway through this.
Yeah, I was about to say we're just over a third of the way through the film.
Yeah.
We're starting to get into some fun stuff. So, without further ado, Sean, why don't you tell us what's going on today?
All right, we start minute 36 with Hathline saying the proof lies in their arrival among us and ends with cars pulling up to the Beverly Wilshire.
Let's take a listen to minute 36 of Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
The proof lies in their arrival among us and in their spoken, and I repeat, spoken testimony. Thank you very much, Dr. Hessline. It's certainly the most incredible story this reporter has ever covered. I think that by their intelligence and their good humor, the two so-called aponauts have already captured the hearts of the entire American nation. They will not be required to appear before the commission tomorrow. That hearing, of course, is going to be held in private. They will, however, be taken from the zoo infirmary to a hotel, and they will be given an extended tour of the city. This is Bill Bonds, reporting for Eyewitness News. Good night.
Good night.
As of minute 36, we have a planet's worth of humans plus 2 living apes and 1 dead ape.
I'm sorry, I'm chewing on the yummy feta that your lovely wife left for us. So
some olives and feta.
We're at Sean's house, and I joked with his wife that, my wife looks at me and says, you know where the pantry is, you know where the fridge is. We come here, and it's a spread today. I'm going to have to get a pic of this and put it out on the Twitterverse. So anyway, here we are. At least we're kind of turning the page from Hathline
on the
being
news,
all serious on the news, and now we get into
the weird couches and stuff inside a cage.
This is a nutty week of minutes when you just kind of look at the change in tone. We talked early on when they first got to the prison. Or the holding cell, and they pulled out the oranges to feed them. That there suddenly was like, oh, this is a comedy,
right?
Well, this just kind of this minute and the next building into it kind of add more to that.
It's a little, it's very light, very humorous.
I would actually like to. I was going to save this till the next minute, but while you were saying it, I was thinking this through. I want to tease this. These 5 minutes, it's Pretty Woman. It literally is you're going to all the boutiques up and down the street and all this and doing things for them. So just keep that in mind as we go. This turns into a bit of a rom-com.
Yeah.
I've never seen Pretty Woman.
You'd be really happy.
Wait. You've never seen A Pretty Woman?
Well,
So a bit of fun note, the guy that taught my film directing class, Walter Von Huene, was the second unit director on Pretty Woman. And so that's one of the films, because he shot so much of it, we broke down that film. I know that film so well.
All right.
So that's half of why when I saw this, I was like, oh, it's Pretty Woman. And it really does have a bit of a rom-com feel to it. So here we are in their cage. As you said, we've got couches. They're very relaxed.
They've got guests sitting in there with them. Yes.
Right. They've got Stevie and Lewis in there with them. The scrutiny of the committee's gone, and now they're infinitely more relaxed. So what happens in the interim between the committee that we say, you have to go back to your cage, but hang on, we're going to make it really nice for you. You're going to make it a living room.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so we're finishing the newscast, right? So they're watching the podcast audience heard the end of Bill Bond saying what's happening now, and the end of Hassline, the end of what's happening now, to set up the fact that we're going back and forth between Bill Bonds in the studio, Bill Bonds on the screen, to them in the actual cages. And it's actually in the script to kind of dress up the set. It says the gorilla's cage has been vacated, right? Because, he crazy. And Cornelius
he was depressed. Not crazy. Depression is
depressed. Yeah, he's depressed. Sorry.
Mental illness is not something that should be mocked. He was depressed and he needed help.
I'm going to go all Tom Cruise on you and say meds are unnecessary.
There you go.
Jump on this couch. Anyway.
Boys.
It says, Gorilla's cage has been vacated and Cornelius and Zira and Lewis are watching what has now become a 2-cage suite incongruously furnished with chairs. A
2-cage suite, yes.
A suite furnished with chairs, a double divan, a dining table, a TV set, etc. So there's an element to which when you look around the room, you've got a table that's got like several place settings on it that are just unused.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't, who sets their table out?
To not do anything with it?
To not do anything, doesn't have anything on it. You have a bowl in the center that has grapes and oranges around it, no bananas.
Of course.
Right? Somebody remembered that there was a no banana rule for Zira.
Yes.
What I find interesting is when they do flash to Bill Bonds on the TV screen, there's like a full set of encyclopedias beside that. And I'm like, we're doing research now in their gorilla cage. Like, it's really odd. Like, brush up on your world history.
Encyclopedia Apetanica?
So I'm looking at, oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting a robocaller. Thank you for warning me about that. I'm looking at the cage. Okay, so we have that bowl of fruit. Mm-hmm. Stevie is sitting on the couch with
She's sitting
Cornelius.
on the couch with Cornelius. Cornelius is on the opposite end. She's closer towards Zira, who's sitting in a chair, side chair, yeah.
With some very plastic-looking pillows behind her.
They are. I think that was the style.
May have
when it
been.
was all wrapped up.
But what I find odd, the oddest of odd, is that not only do we have a sofa, a chair, a coffee table with the fruit, we have a refrigerator over behind Lewis.
We have a fridge,
Well, that's where the beer is.
But then we have a bed that is completely made up with a headboard behind it. Is that not the cage where the depressed ape would have been?
Right.
So
exactly.
now they're going to sleep where the thing that
killed their
friend.
Right. Exactly. Well, in the same room that their friend died. Our friend died here. It's fine. We'll just set up a couch. So the way this is staged is they're trying to use the entire shot.
Right.
So you've got Cornelius on our right, Stevie kind of on the opposite end of the couch. There's no body language between her and Stevie. It's a little awkward, the fact that they're so far apart on the couch. We've got Zira centered in the kind of in the center of the shot, sitting in the chair. We've got Lewis in a chair by himself, but his chair is over by the table, and there's a little bit of distance between Lewis and the other ones. So as the scene unfolds, Stevie kind of smiles, refolds her arm, looks comforting at Zira, and Lewis is just a little. His legs are crossed away from them. He doesn't really have a smile initially. It looks like he's almost separated from them for a reason. Like, it's very unusual. Like, he's awkward in the framing.
Yeah, and he's definitely sitting at a chair from the kitchen table, because is that silverware just below his right elbow?
Well, yeah, no, it's a whole setting that's like just not being used. It's just kind of
his tie's loosened, so he's very relaxed.
Maybe they had dinner and now they're watching TV afterwards.
That's fair. It's it's just weird that they've completely made this into a living space for them. Yeah. And again, I ask, what happened in the interim between the council doing whatnot and then winning over the populace with the applause and whatnot, that they went, move some furniture in?
But how much time are we supposed to assume has passed? I mean, for me, this was just maybe yesterday.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, like a day. Yeah.
I actually thought it was today, because it's almost like they've
after
done
the meeting?
The news has reported all this kind of thing, and now they're in there watching the summation.
What zoo just has this shit lying around to populate a monkey's cage? Seriously, well, it's obvious. It's obviously a studio. Like, we have a prop. Go to the prop room. Philip, make it look like an apartment.
Right.
What you're not seeing is the zoo break room where there's a missing couch now and a missing table, and you just see people standing there with their arms crossed, like, "Damn it!
Well,
I took a nap there yesterday."
I know, yeah.
It's funny you mentioned arms crossed because this is the first time that I want to bring out that Natalie Tully Natalie. What's her name? Tully is Trundy. Natalie Tully's a woman that I know that lives in Seattle. So hi, Natalie, if you're listening.
Hi, Natalie.
Natalie Trundy. This is the beginning of her acting in this little 5-minute segment where I'm thinking, almost like how we had Nova last time, that it very much is. Again, she's the wife of a very prominent person involved in this. Her acting chops, even though she had a pretty good career of acting, she doesn't provide much of this. And it's this very weird kind of, I'm going to cross my arms and I'm just going to look at the action. That's
Follow the action.
So seriously, if you watch in these 5 minutes, she literally is ping-ponging throughout the action.
They don't give her anything to do. They don't give her or Lewis much to do.
I agree with that.
We'll talk about Wednesday's minute when we get a little bit more into Thursday. But nothing is going on right now for the two of these actors.
Right.
There's not even any dialogue.
They're watching TV, yeah, basically.
There's no dialogue. It's basically the Bond's concluding with what he's saying. I did want to ask a question about what Bond says. he references the Apes, right?
Which, finally we get that term officially.
Right.
So, but real quick about that, Apes is not really technically correct because Astro is referring to space and Knots is referring to sailors. So they're saying ape sailors instead of star sailors. We don't say human sailors.
So they should say Astro Apes.
Astro Apes, yeah, if nothing else, yeah.
I like Ape-O-Nuts better.
Yeah.
Well, it's the news. They should get this shit right.
Even though I really hope when you said when they refer to Knots that they're referring to Don.
Don Knotts.
I really hope that's where you're going.
They only get one bullet each.
So Bonds basically says, this is the most incredible story that he's ever covered, right? Just to kind of, it would be. I'd be on the news going, this shit is crazy, guys. We have apes from the future,
right?
That crash landed in a spaceship from one of our astronauts. So, but he says something interesting that I don't know ever gets picked up on, at least not in this minute. And I'm not sure going forward. They will not be required by the commission at tomorrow's session, which will be held in private.
Yeah, what's the purpose of the commission if they're not part of it?
So the commission is reconvening.
Yeah, but that's also...
The commission is reconvening, but they're not having them come back.
Part of it, yeah.
So they're discussing what they've already found out.
I
don't know.
I guess,
yeah.
But they didn't have the dun 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 music in there to remind me, but it sounds a little ominous. They're not bringing the apes back in for this conversation. It sounds like if our villain Hasline had a moment, it'd be in a private conversation with the commission while they get to go do whatever.
However, I would introduce that if you're now going to take the tone of this film's already had a bit of levity and air to it that the other films hadn't. If you want to continue that ominous tone, but you want to change things so that we now have the rom-com moment of it, you're going to simply mention that devious activities are still occurring.
So that you can say, yeah.
And that it really is just that underlayer of they're going to continue to do something and something's going on.
When he mentions that, they've already captured the hearts of the entire American nation, Stevie does smile and she kind of refolds her arm. So she feels, I guess, a sense of accomplishment that that's happened, that they did something that was good. Bonds concludes by saying that they're going to be transferred from the zoo infirmary to a hotel and will be taken on an extended tour of the city. Sean had mentioned, them being in L.A., and it's interesting. Bill Bond says the city was originally supposed to be Los Angeles. Los Angeles crossed out. I don't know if he just forgot Los Angeles or they actually had a dialogue change to make it the city. I don't know why that would be relevant.
I can't help but wonder if they don't do Los Angeles simply from a production standpoint, that they're shooting in Los Angeles. And it's because, when we finally cut to the city, when we hear the sirens going and they're taking the cars through, the first shot is the Brown Derby restaurant, which is a very iconic.
And it's very strange that if the first two movies were basically set in New York, to not continue it there, to literally go to the other side of the country.
I would imagine it would just be for money reasons. I think
that's exactly it.
JJ's trying to be quiet while sitting down.
Hi, JJ.
Hi.
Are you going to sit with us?
Just for a minute.
Okay. Feel free to interject, even though you'll be very quiet. I'll do what I can to boost you up.
She hasn't even watched.
You can laugh. You can do whatever you want. Okay.
we have the gigantic transformation of New York. It makes sense to me to want to move it someplace else. That would be a new location just for
freshness.
Exactly. That we haven't seen the city become so dire. What could potentially become of Los Angeles? We don't know what happens to Los Angeles. So let's kind of show you this bright city for something potentially down the line.
That's a really interesting point, too, when you consider, and I know you haven't seen the last two films, Richard. I know, Sean.